Hinslow's film.
Yeah.
And this is, then she gets
This one
Blackberry
is, there's
Kitco's
a
next.
long-term plan behind the existing homes and will replace. Well, what's it gonna do in place? It's gonna tap dance?
Yep.
They're gonna.
Potentially.
Gonna remain in place? Is it gonna, you know? Give it a
It's the guy who wrote it. I'm almost positive it's supposed to say remain.
That's what I thought, so I mean, it's just,
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
when I was working, we hand wrote stuff and then Tina would type it. And she'd be doing stuff and the phone would ring, she'd just stop and she'd look at her, where she typed in the last word would be the. So she'd look and she'd find out. From there.
Kind of left that up to PJ.
But it started. Yeah.
It started out, okay, where I'm at, I'm, minutes, 1, 2, 3 pages in. Under presentation, preliminary plan, see what was my, existing homes. Okay, there's a long strip of land behind the existing homes that will tap dance in place.
I like that.
Did you? Sure.
It's remain. It's remain. Remain.
I wrote remain in there, yes, that's what it meant.
The right thing to do.
Okay. Is he all set with this?
When I.
Because I didn't see that in your notes.
That's what.
Community. Amber had professional.
Now, is that, are you someone who
Hamburg had a professional.
receives these willingly?
Orchard Park.
All right.
Had a-
It's
Then I
arthritis.
read
Okay, thanks.
So it's just right in here, you press it, hit the ceiling.
Oh.
And so, no, and so I went to a hand doctor.
The other
Said,
communities.
a month of this, that doesn't
Go
work.
back into the minutes to show.
That doesn't work.
And you have a clue what they're talking
Yeah, I
about.
had this right here.
You know?
And it worked.
It's not very.
No, sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't.
It was 2
Three,
months
I
ago.
was
3 to
sometimes-
6 months in my winners. If that's something you can live with every 3 to 6 months coming in for a shot, then fine. If not,
A little,
if
you
it
know.
shortens
Yeah,
up,
really
then
not.
you have to have
Really
surgery.
not.
Unfortunately,
On this line, what could the top
Shot, I like literally, like, get to like, it was,
And
right?
I
Was
just
it?
said, I think
It was
it's.
worse
Yeah.
I
than.
think something happened in.
Yeah.
But hey,
right.
As long
And
as
so
it
what
works.
she said.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, he says that you've got a bone in there,
So she had-
and fortunately, it's like your appendix. You don't need
So I
it.
ended up editing.
So you can remove it
Back
and
and forth 3 or
inject
4 times. It's like her second
Who
one.
knows?
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, this is crazy. I said,
Grammar
because,
and-
and he says, you think about it, you grab more with your left hand. He says, you usually hold something with your left hand
Unpaid,
and manipulate it with your right.
volunteer.
Okay, you're always using that for something else. You're carrying your books for something else.
Somehow, sometimes that's how I feel
Thank
when
you,
I'm
Sam.
putting
Delivering.
multiple hours in to put together the communications.
They said, let's go.
Yeah.
And it's funny that told I said, okay, here's the date.
It is kind of.
She did tell you that time.
The night before,
The only thing that's gonna be acting as a contract,
ready to go, and then
you've got everything on the drawings, you just need a contract.
she went over,
Yeah, and have it all done, so
they called her and said, oh, you can.
Made a board member tonight.
We're busy right now. I said, all right. It's only.
Said it's mad a board
She
member.
had anything going on,
John is not here.
and, never skinned it.
It should be.
Well, we're not gonna do this because you're in there. I called my wife, who runs the, and my wife was racing out of the hospital.
Oh my gosh.
Went in the room, she
It's not a lot of
was
fun,
getting ready.
and especially when,
So then I go, she, gets ready.
especially when you
Stepped
go
out.
2 weeks. I mean, on 2
Went in
meetings.
the room. 10 minutes later, nurse comes out and goes, all right, it's here.
Pretty arduous.
And I'm out there like, maybe, I mean, it wasn't, the baby, it was 5 pounds, it wasn't tiny.
Yeah.
You know? And he was fine, he had
Never
breathing
had that
issues
Alex
for a couple
set
weeks,
to
but
myself.
otherwise he was fine.
You gotta keep
How old is he now?
do it like it was normal, so I have to catch up.
Do you believe that I found like the whole town map before your neighborhood was even?
Okay, it was 7 o'clock. How about we stand and start with reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Cindy.
Jerry Renzo.
Here.
Rebecca Anderson.
Here,
John Lopez. Anthony Gorski.
Here.
Joseph Keith.
Here.
Lawrence Korosnetsky.
Here.
Michael Ryan.
Here.
Okay, we'll see if I can do this without the glasses today. This ought to be good. Welcome, everyone. All of you. This is a meeting of the Planning Board of the Town of Lancaster. Please keep in mind that we are an advisory and recommending board and not a final decision-making body. Now I'll take a look, I ask the board members to take a look at the meeting minutes from the May 7th meeting. Ask for any additions, deletions, or modifications.
I've already noted to the secretary a one-word omission. And it will be in the corrected minutes.
Okay. Any others? Okay. Look for a motion then.
Move we approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next, we'll move to the communications list. All right, we'll move on now to our first and only case of the evening. Project number 3211, 4401 Walden.
Good evening.
Hello.
My name's Lee Talley. I'm with Long Talley Engineering, representing Mr. Blazak for 4401 Walden Avenue. As we presented at the last planning board meeting, the proposed project is to add a second-story addition within the interior of the existing warehouse space. It's approximately 6,000 square feet. This is where the warehouse space here. The major exterior impact will be there's currently a special use permit for storage of stone countertop on the north face of the building. So we asked, it's for 27 northern spots. Mr. Blazak's going to move the material to the west side. In that picture, it's where the tractor trailers are parked. That's not there anymore. That's an old photo. In order to provide the 81 required spots, we proposed 93 spots will be provided for all the businesses at this location. So we propose that with approval of the site plan, that the special use permit would be rescinded.
Anything else that you want to tell us?
I think that's it.
Okay.
New windows.
Okay. All right, ask for any questions or comments from the board. No?
Straightforward.
Okay. Ed, anything from engineering? No. Emily, anything from legal?
No.
Matt, other than the special use permit, anything from?
All comments were addressed.
Great. We'll open up to the public for any comments. We will now move on to seeker. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adapted land use plan or zoning regulations? No. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land?
No.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No.
4 is not applicable. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
No.
Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
No.
Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies?
No.
Public or private wastewater treatments?
No.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
No.
Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
Now we have to do a motion on seeker first. Okay, look for a motion on seeker.
I'll move for a negative declaration.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Okay, look for a motion on the amended site plan.
I'll make the motion to approve the amended site plan as presented with any conditions that Matt might have, although we didn't have any this time.
Yeah, with
so
the one
good.
condition that the,
Isn't there one?
yeah,
Special use permit.
yes, yes. Removal of the special use permit.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. We will make our recommendation for the town board for both.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Do I present in front of the town board again, or do they just vote?
Just they'll pass resolution.
Okay, sounds good. Great, thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Good luck with the rest of the people. Thanks.
Is anything else that the board would like to discuss tonight? Well, as a member of the board, I'd like to convey to the rest of the board that there was a discussion prior to everyone's arrival that Ed shared with me, that the supervisor would like us to start, or would like to investigate potential of our own tree survey. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that, Ed?
Yeah, he just asked me to get prices for a tree survey at Spring Hill Suites.
Pardon?
Or not Spring, is it Spring Hill? Woodspring, sorry, Woodspring Suites.
He's having Ed look into pricing for a tree survey for Woodspring Suites.
I think that's an excellent idea, but this is the year to do it, and they should be looking for endangered species while they're there. We have some thrushes flying around behind my house that I haven't heard in years, probably not endangered, but they're rare. And you probably all saw the picture of the trilliums, which are a no-pick species. I think it's an excellent idea. I think they should look at the habitat as a whole, not just the trees. We have probably old growth on that site.
Is the cost borne on the applicant?
What's that?
Is the cost borne on the applicant? Would the cost be borne on the applicant?
For the tree survey? Bob didn't say, he said get costs, so I'm not sure.
Under seeker, it could be.
Not under a normal seeker, no. Under EIS, well, no.
If we declare that, if they want to avoid a positive deck, they could.
Could we force that on them, seeing how they already provided
They
one?
did it.
I did.
They
Right,
did one,
right.
It's a long time of year.
but they did it in the winter.
I know. Did we tell them what time of year?
Honestly,
it is?
I don't know, I mean, I'm not an arborist, so I don't know if it makes a difference to an arborist if it's winter or
Well, it doesn't really on the trees, it's the rest of the habitat.
Right.
And
And all we asked for was a tree survey.
we have we have new information given to us by the neighborhood of other species that might be here.
Was that picture actually
Yeah, but
taken from there?
they
I
might
think
be
that was-
anywhere.
It could be anywhere. That's one thing we should go. I'd like to go take a walk, see what's there myself. I don't know if that could be arranged or if we have permission to go because it's a site before us. You know?
You'd need permission to walk the site.
I mean, the biggest thing is, our code says 2 for 1.
2 for 1, tree
Trees.
replacements.
That's,
And they're not meeting that.
well, you're never gonna get 2 for 1 on the same site. That wouldn't make any sense. If a developer was taking 20 trees down because he needed the room, you can't ask him to plant
Right.
40 because it
Right.
would negate the,
But
but
The mitigation plan is pathetic. All they're doing is comparing dollars to dollars and saying, well, we'll just spend more money on our little flashy ornamentals, none of whom are native, and stick them on the site and say, look, we planted grass. That's not.
I don't, I mean, I don't know what, you know, I mean, it's like wetlands, you know, it used to be a 2-for-1 replacement, but they didn't have to do it on site.
Right, right. But they could do it in the town of Lancaster and acquire the parcel next door to it and put it in
Well, no, you wouldn't,
perpetuity.
you can't make them do it on private property.
They would have to buy something. Many times with wetlands, they do. They have-
Wetland banks, yes, but
Uh-huh.
they're set up specifically for that. I mean, the only other option I would see is that, you know, 2-for-1, that they donate double the trees, they donate the trees to the town. The town puts them where they need them. Town buys hundreds of trees a year, not more,
How many?
hundreds. I mean, they're always, every spring they're buying trees.
Oh, I just wondered, because they cut them all down on my street.
Well, yeah, they do, but they, I mean, because, you know, I mean, every, you know, the code is every house gets 2 street trees,
Yeah,
paid for by the town.
on the house strip between the sidewalk and the street.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I mean, you got parkland that they're always taking dead stuff out of. So, I mean, I don't know, I mean, the code says 2-for-1, I'm not sure what the intent was. I don't think you can get, like I said, it would make no sense to tell somebody they gotta put twice as many trees on a site they're taking trees off of because they need
That's right.
they need the space to build. That doesn't, on my mind, well, that doesn't work.
I agree. I agree, but like what they've come up with, they haven't come up with anything.
No, their alternative was, okay, since we can't do that, well, they went to a value.
Yeah, we'll just spend money, but they're not putting anything up that is at all native. It's just ornamental fluff. If you look through it, there's nothing there. It's not comparable.
The way the code is written is for every project. Anything over a 2.5-inch caliber is a 2-to-1 replacement ratio.
Okay.
This is for every project.
Yeah, not just this one,
Kind of hard to stick to that one since it hasn't been administered,
ever.
but maybe something to keep our attention on for all future projects. If we're clear cutting or removing woodlot areas, be something to consider. It's identified in more of your regulations applying to all districts on the landscaping phase of the zoning code.
Do the board members believe that they need more information or need to do something in particular to get to a point where they can make a decision? I know.
I think we need the tree study. We talked about that the last time. I don't know how anybody else feels other than Rebecca, but I think Larry.
I went through the tree survey with my book and my tape rule at home. I'm just saying, okay, it's this caliber. Okay, oh, that's a big one. Oh, that's not this big one. You know? And I don't have it printed out, but there were, how many of them were there? 310 trees or some such thing?
Oh, yeah.
There were about 310 on the list
310 identified.
for this project that they're removing. No, that they identified. They're not removing every single one. There are a
Right.
few in the corner. A few that they're leaving. So let's say they're taking out, give them the benefit of the doubt, 275. That's a lot of trees to replace. Somewhere else.
550, I did the
Yeah,
math
but
right.
it's probably more like 600, because the ones that are in the corner, there is very few being left. The biggest one, the very biggest one is located right at the southern end of the rear door of the building. Where they put the overlay on, the biggest one with a 34-inch DBH is right at the back door. So I'd still like to go. I'd still like to go look at it myself. And just kind of take a little walk through. If anybody else wanted to go, so we could get permission from the owner or something.
Emily, what would that look like? How would we have to get permission?
You just send an email asking if
Would you,
decide.
you know,
Yeah, I can send it.
ask me if the planning board could have permission to go through.
Okay.
If we picked a time, like maybe Saturday morning or something, we're gonna, whoever wanted to go, go, and then you tell us.
Okay. Yeah, I'll see if there's specific times or if it's just open anytime.
Is this the same site that years ago was denied?
Yes. Yes.
How did it get any better?
Pardon?
How did it get any
How
better?
did it change and get any
If it
better?
was,
The site, if it was denied previously?
It's gotten more valuable
right,
to us.
that's my
to me.
question.
But as far as the, was it zoned the same time, or was the latest rezoned bump over? The other question is on our secret review, we said, is this a change to the character of the neighborhood? And I think we said no, thinking it was a hotel next to a hotel, but instead, I should have had my head facing the other way, and it's a major change to the residential district. which
We,
is-
we haven't done secret yet for this project.
No, we started.
Right, but we haven't
We
finished.
haven't finished. So I think it needs to stay open and maybe go back and look at a couple other questions that we had said maybe it's not such a big deal, but maybe it's a bigger deal than we thought.
Okay?
Because of what the people have been telling us, you know? I mean, if I just look at it and say it's zoned properly and the hotel fits with a lot of variances, but it fits, and they're taking all those trees and all the growth down, they have a mitigation plan that's woefully inadequate, so they gotta come up with better mitigation if they do get this thing. I'm just saying that, I'm trying to look at it from their point of view. But isn't there another parcel on your side of the thruway that's available for
Maybe height.
something?
The other
bigger?
side of transit.
Transit or the thruway?
Transit.
Actually, both.
There's both, isn't there?
It's on the other side of transit and the other side of the thruway.
Oh, I don't know.
What's that? The other side of transit, truck.
Yeah, it's on the other side of transit and the other
On
side.
the north side of the thruway.
Yeah.
Right, and the
West side of transit.
transit, yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
I'm
like
not
a-
trying to kick it out of our town, but, you know, sometimes,
I have a question though. I mean, if this wasn't up in front of the planning board, and the landowner decided to go in there and just cut all those trees down, is there anything the town could do?
No.
There isn't, right?
If there's a determination that it's a protected forest, I
Yeah,
don't think
you
that'd be
can't.
allowed. You
But there's no-
can't
There is no protected
But how would we
forest.
know it was
Well, a landowner doesn't have to come before
it
any
has
board.
her
A
problem.
landowner could
Clear
just
his
go
own
in there
land.
and
There's
cut
no-
all the trees down if
There's
you
no,
wanted
there's
to.
no permit for that.
Right. Matt, is that true?
Well, we have a woodlot overlay. I mean, if we're identified on a woodlot overlay, there's some standards there. The ERPODs.
Yeah, your part applies.
Right, but if a guy owned the land and say, I need firewood,
Give me a moment here.
Yeah.
I'm cutting down I'm cutting down the trees, I need firewood. We would never know, to be honest with you.
Right.
Unless he changes the drainage, which is what happened behind my house, is that they went in with a Cat G8 and said, oh, we're plowing it to plant stuff. And they radically changed the drainage, and now all his neighbors are wet.
Odds are it'd take a long time before the town caught up to it,
He could
right?
do something like that.
If the owner in your scenario.
I mean, if you're going in and just cutting a tree,
A
right?
tree.
Well, trees, doesn't matter, 1, 10, 100. If you
Okay.
own the piece of property, you have the right to
275.
do whatever you
Say you
want
want
to
to log
do.
it. Let's say you want to commercially log it.
Yeah, there's no
You
permit.
have to,
There's no
there's
permit.
no permit for logging in Lancaster?
I don't believe so.
There should be.
Well, in the Woodlot Protection District, the preservation of large stands of trees, protected wildlife habitat, and water quality reduces stormwater runoff and maintains corridors for the safe movement of wildlife. Site development shall be designed to avoid large areas of wood forest. No clear cutting is permitted in properties of over 1/4 of an acre in size. All trees over 6 inches as measured at the breast height diameter shall be preserved. And to determine the extent of the wooded areas on properties proposed for development, aerial photography shall be used, and unless a tree survey is required by the planning board, and when required, a tree survey will be prepared by a professional arborist, forester, landscaper that indicates the size, species, and location of all the trees that could be affected by the site development. And the proposed development plan shall be superimposed over an aerial image of the site to determine the layout, and that it would have at least impact on the woodland resources, and the extent of the woodland areas to be preserved shall extend 25 feet beyond the drip line of the outermost area of the tree branches of all trees located nearest to the exterior boundary of the woodlot. So reading that, and knowing what the standards are for stormwater, erosion, and sediment control, when we're clear cutting a piece of property, cutting trees is one thing, but when we start disturbing areas over an acre, there's other parameters that we need to address as well, which is why we have a project currently under violation that's in front of this board for clear cutting an area, allegedly for obtaining topography elevations, and they disturbed a couple of acres at least of land without any erosion and sediment control. So to this date, that property is still in violation.
Right. So we do have regulations.
But back to that, if the owner wanted to clear cut it, he's not doing anything, there's no site plan. He can
No,
go
but
in
if
there
you're
and
gonna
get
log a large wood lot, a 15 acre, 25 acre, 100 acre parcel, you're gonna log it, more than likely, you need to get some sort of stormwater erosion control.
But would that
You
have
need
to
to
come before this board for them to get started?
Not necessarily, but there are standards.
Yeah, so as
Okay.
long as they abided by the standards, you could clear cut the lot.
Right, but then when we identify that you're in the woodlot overlay district, there's other parameters that need to be addressed.
And it's a disturbance of soil, unless he does it in the dead of winter when it's frozen solid. So then he's got a SWIP, possibly.
Well, all of that, but if you're just dropping trees and logging the trees, you're not disturbing the root ball, you're not removing the stumps, you're
Yeah,
not
but you gotta get 'em
regrading. You gotta get them out, of course, so a proper construction driveway, access driveway, and depending on the area that you're gonna be working in, may trigger it.
Right.
Okay, and then you have the wetland features of the property. Do we need the jurisdictional determination just for clear cutting a parcel? Do you need Army Corps of Engineers determination on their regulatory aspects of that property just for clear cutting a parcel?
What if it's a wetland of local importance? There you go.
That's what has to be determined. So is there a specific local law for logging in the town? No, but there's all kinds of regulatory measures that need to be looked at.
But we told them that they needed a tree study, right? They went and did a tree study. We didn't tell them when they needed to do the tree study. There's nowhere that I heard that said anything about the time of year.
The standard was met.
Right.
Now, whether or not this board can accept it or deny it, I'm not sure what the legalities of that are, based on information that you already have. But what's an acceptable mitigation practice?
Well, one of the conversations that Ed and I had, another conversation that Ed and I had earlier was the tree company that did the tree study could very well come to us and say, if we were to ask him, it's his opinion that the tree survey he gave you is what it would be regardless of what time of year it is, that he can tell you the viability
I
of the
can't
tree.
tell you that, he can tell you that.
Right.
Until they're doing it, they're going in and maybe saying species, and maybe it's telling the caliper of the tree. You can do that in December, you can do it in June.
Yeah, I have no qualms.
They're not saying whether or not it's alive, dead,
Well, I think
healthy,
They did.
not healthy.
No,
They
they
did.
did, they did.
They did.
They ranked them all, yeah.
Yeah,
No, then that's
But
even
the
better.
standard is specific, that it's prepared by an arborist and it indicates the size, species, and location of trees. That's the standard.
So I think that even if we get our own from the town, I'm sorry, Rebecca,
No.
even if we get our own, it's gonna, all it's gonna do is say exactly what the one that we have in front of us already says.
yeah, I don't have any problems with their tree survey. They know an oak from a maple from a beech. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. And some of them were kind of tricky. They had a couple of species in there that were like, I had to look them up. And I'm not complaining about the tree survey. I'm complaining about the fact that we don't know what's under that tree canopy. And they did it in the winter, which they have every right to do. But now, in the spring, is when you should be looking and seeing what all else is in there.
Who's gonna determine that?
Well, that's the thing.
I don't think another tree survey is gonna determine.
It's not the trees, it's the understory.
So I don't think it's worth it for us to even do another study.
I don't have a problem with the tree survey. I have a problem with what else is there?
Well, we were looking
So-
for things to potentially do, and that was one of the things that this board came up with as an idea. Maybe we need our own tree study. But it seems to me like that is just an exercise in futility, so to speak, right? I mean, because we've already got one in front of us.
Yeah, it's not, I don't have any,
If it was done by a questionable company, then yeah, maybe it makes sense. But if it's done by a local arborist that's in business,
That does work for the town.
why would
Oh, it
you,
worked for the town.
why would you
Yeah.
question it?
I don't,
Yeah,
I don't question.
Okay, we trust it.
yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, they're a national firm.
Price-wise too.
I question what's growing around under it and living in there.
So what are the seeker responses then from the Army Corps and the DEC regarding the wetland aspects and the species? I mean, wetlands are not just wet soil. That's not the definition of a wetland. It's everything. It's the soil types, the habitat, and the vegetation.
But it's not wetland where the prime trees are.
Understood.
It's a knoll, it's a high ground.
Understood.
What we're looking at though is how about old growth?
So what's the real issue here?
The neighbors don't like the hotel.
I understand.
Pretty much.
I'm trying to do due diligence to the point where there's nothing left for them to blame us for. I want to do the best job I possibly can and vote the way I think it should be, looking at what's best for the town as a overall. How many more hotels, the thing that struck home with me was the police reports. How many calls are constantly being called by our police?
Not by this hotel.
Pardon?
It's not by this hotel.
No, the ones that are here, the Red Rose and all. We don't know about this one yet, 'cause it's not there yet.
So how many speeding tickets are issued on an annual basis on a state road, town road, and a county road?
I
So do
know.
we stop building state roads, town roads, and county roads because we're issuing speeding tickets?
I just wonder if we, the question in seeker is, does it put any type of pressure on our resources, our police, fire, blah, blah, blah? Well, same as Walmart. How often are they at Kohl's?
The pressure's been mounting here for 45 years.
Pardon?
The pressure's been mounting here for 45
It
years.
has, it has, it has.
It's also not up to the board, the
Right.
town board, the planning board to determine whether or not a hotel is feasible for any spot in Lancaster. We're not doing the surveys to say whether or not it'll survive or not survive.
Oh,
That's not up to us.
Right.
And that goes to DG Markets too, by the way, same.
I just wondered.
Well, I mean, if we're going to look at the projects based on their landscaping requirements and our ERPODs that we've recently adopted, I think it's proper for everybody to get into the verbiage, understand what the intent is, and then apply it evenly to all the projects that are coming through.
Yep.
I think that's the best that we could do as a township.
So the value that they placed on those trees, there's nothing stating
It's not
that $300 value. I think there was a $300 value per tree, and they said, we're gonna take down X number of trees at $300, and this is what our landscape plan is. There's nothing stating that in the code anywhere, right?
No.
How did they even come up with that?
Well, I mean, again, it was derived when it was derived.
That was their alternative to 2-to-1.
Well,
So let's switch to that new thing across from the police station on Pavement Road. How many trees did they cut down there?
Cross Creek?
No, the
The Uniland, metal buildings. There was a whole pile of trees there.
The corner was all trees.
And we never once
Did they
talked about
replace
it.
them 2-for-1?
No.
Did the town get the other 2-for-1 on that job?
No, look at Cross Creek. Cross Creek was, there's a lot of wooded land there that they.
Well, I mean, you could look at almost all of these, that,
Transit Road.
any one of them, right?
Anything that was developed on Transit Road in the last 45 years. Those were that was wooded property right up to the right of way.
So should we have denied all of those because of the trees?
Yeah,
Mitigation.
No, you can't, you don't deny it,
We should've done better.
but you require the mitigation.
We should have done a better job of mitigation.
Well, I mean, and again,
But it
we're
was a
not,
different
we're not
board.
denying or approving, right? We're just making recommendations. And
Right.
in the end, it's the town board that's making the call. They're the elected officials.
Even Windsor Ridge.
I'm not saying I love the project. but do we have enough to deny the project?
We have enough.
Without the town being in a legal situation to say, well,
We have
this
precedent.
happened here, or this happened there, or this happened there, and you didn't require any of that.
So we have precedent on this site that it was denied before. You remember, Joe?
No,
Well,
it was an ancient forest and it was denied. And I think there was DEC involvement or some sort of state involvement at the time, but we haven't found, I don't think we found the prior file for some reason.
And we have current DEC and state letters, right, that don't have anything that indicate that on this particular go-around.
has the tree survey been sent into the DEC and asked for their opinion?
No,
No.
but when have we ever done that?
Well, I was just saying, if you wanted to ask for a second opinion on the value of what's there, they'll look at it from a forestry point of view, though, and say, oh, it's worth this much money per tree. You know, so we're back to the other question. Or the habitat, we could, and then who's looking at stuff. I just think there's certain areas of the town that are better off being preserved than they're being built on. And there's certain areas of the town that, like the strip of Transit Road, what have you got left? Saving a little piece of pocket out by the road doesn't,
Are those critical resource areas?
we don't have critical resource areas.
Well, that's all well and good, Rebecca, but think of the land, the current landowner, right? So if the town owned that, yes, we could say, no, we're not gonna cut any trees down, but somebody privately owns that.
And they want to sell it for their own reasons. I throw this back in my own head too, Tony. I go through all this. They own it. They want to sell some land. They need some money. I don't know what the issue is. They've got approach, perhaps, because it's zoned property. They have the right to sell. They wanted to split off, sell part of it, keep rest. Maybe they want a buffer. I just drove up there again. There's nothing that keeps a new owner for that house in the future to cut down the rest of it, you know?
There's
So
hotels right next to it, right
I
up the street.
hear you. And I agree with you. Tony.
I don't know the right answer. I'm just trying to make sure we look at both sides of the fence here. That's
I think we've got to allow opposition, and we're paying attention to it. When you say, well, we didn't do anything this on Transit Road, because we didn't have
No,
40
we were
40
paying-
people coming in saying, pounding, hey, look at this, look at this, look at this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the best
It
thing,
should, if it's a regulation in the code, then it shouldn't matter whether there's one person here or 50 people.
Right?
Well, Larry and I and Jennifer Strong, the town attorney, were at a municipal law seminar last week. It was conducted by Hudson Russ, a major Buffalo law firm, and they were talking about cases involving seeker. And the biggest point that came out of it was that you have to take a hard look at a project like this, and that despite the zoning, you have to really analyze the adverse effect on the neighborhood, and that you don't have the right to do whatever you want. That's why we do seeker. And those are what the court cases say.
That's right.
Okay, but there's also a buffer of trees between this parcel
Well, that's part of the analysis.
and 90%
obviously.
of the houses that people are living in.
Down at the other end of the street.
yeah, around the
The,
corner,
the other end of the street.
Bowmansville, down
The
at the,
other, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I drove up and
yeah, once you make that turn.
driving, oh, here's the first house.
Right.
You know?
Well, that same property
Park there,
owner
no, park
owns
there.
all the way to the corner,
Right.
just about. He owns all that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the next parcel, maybe we could be a little harder on if they're gonna develop more and more and more, but I mean, this
As
is
they
the
get closer.
furthest.
Where does the zoning end though?
Well,
Is it-
sub-
That person.
The zoning ends right on this parcel?
Yeah, so they're buying right up to the end of the commercial
They're
district?
buying the west half of the parcel,
No, there'd still be another piece left.
right?
One parcel.
The one, yeah,
One parcel left and then.
one
it's
parcel
residential.
left, one that they're subdividing.
But I agree with Joe. I've been to a lot of training with Secret too, and it's that hard look to see what's best for the community. It's not always what's best for the developer, and what the community is very vocal in this case.
Well, Joe got a standing ovation last time.
But that's where mitigation comes in. You gotta, if you're looking at each impact, then what's the acceptable mitigation to address the impact?
If it can be mitigated.
If it can be mitigated.
And if it can't be mitigated, then the applicant doesn't have as much power, as it were, to say, yeah, but. And we haven't even gotten to the point of a pos deck or a net deck yet. Everybody thinks it's going to be a slam dunk net deck, but we could go back to reopen seeker and say, we're giving this a positive deck under seeker, and these are the issues we need to look at. But they've already tried to get past us doing that by doing what we asked for, which was the tree.
Correct, which you
So
can do.
we'd be hard
Yeah.
pressed to do that.
Yeah.
But the data they gave us tells me that I don't think I can give this a clear voice of saying there's no adverse effects.
What if they follow the 2-to-1?
Well, number one, where are they going to do that?
Well, that's,
And-
it doesn't,
and
I mean,
street
if they
trees-
follow it, is there a exact tree that they have to replace it with?
Well, how are you going to replace a tree with
Well,
a
that's what I'm asking.
34-inch DBH?
That's what I'm
You
asking.
know?
Can they replace that tree with a 1-inch caliber tree?
There you go. You know, where's the...
How's that a replacement?
how's
It doesn't
that?
say, so, I
The
mean,
code doesn't specify.
you know, if they did it,
There's no way to...
that's a mitigation of
You can't
that.
do anything with. Even in the report, it said this tree was healthy and should be keeping an eye on it. You know, in terms of like, is it healthy? And it was. So there was a couple in the corners that were big, that they were so-called saving, that were in pretty good shape. So,
I circle back to, I still don't think a tree survey from our own is going to do anything different.
I don't either.
I mean, maybe we have a discussion, or ask, the town has a discussion with Davy to
think-
find out?
I think if they're gonna study anything, they need to study endangered growth,
Yes.
not
Yeah.
the trees.
Right. Right.
Like undergrowth that wouldn't have been there when they did the tree survey,
Right.
because it was the middle of winter.
Right.
But then you get to the question is, when, and I don't know this answer, when is the ideal time to do that type of study?
May, June, July, and August.
No, you can do it now. You can do it now, everything's full
Yeah.
green.
Yeah, because even if a trillium is done blooming, if you know what you're looking for, you can see that it's still there. So,
I don't think that a tree study survey is going to do any good for us. I would like to at least try to get access, if we could, for anybody who would like to get out there.
I'd love to.
You can certainly ask the applicant to have Davy submit a letter explaining if the survey is valid, being that it was done in March. I mean,
Okay.
that needs to come from Davy. I mean, nobody
Right,
else is gonna be able to answer
the
that.
person who did the report, absolutely. It would stand similar to the report does.
I don't believe a good arborist makes a lot of mistakes. And there's a lot of maple, beech is obvious, oak's pretty obvious. The cherry is really obvious in the winter. I mean, just looking at the bark. So,
So what else as a board can we ask for, or would you like to see asked for? Because I think we have summarized that, right? We don't believe that we need another tree survey, that we would like to get on there, but we would like to at least ask the arborist or Davy
Yeah, but
as first.
I don't know what, I mean, the reason this came up is because residents came to the town board meeting
Yep.
and discussed this project. That's
like
what-
a biologist.
That's what it is.
goes through this.
Yeah, that's what it is. Why you need a biologist?
Not an arborist or even a forester, an arborist or a biologist looking at the habitat overall, especially get Mike Morganti out there.
Are we doing that on any other, have we done that on any other project?
The subdivision on the end of William Street, we had a volunteer bird professional go and see what they had see, and he's the one who found the Hensel sparrows.
Yeah, and then we're gonna.
Honestly, I think going forward, if we ever ask for a tree survey again, and I don't know if there's any way to do this, but I think that the company hired to do that should be engaged by the town and then reimbursed for that cost.
The way you think we should own
It should be a third-party person. It shouldn't be somebody hired by the developer.
Right.
You can say the
Because
same
then you
thing,
end
well,
up
you can
in
say the
this
same thing,
conundrum of believing whether or not you believe it or not.
you can say the same thing about traffic studies.
Absolutely. There's never been a traffic study that wasn't favorable to the developer. Never.
I can, well, from my experience, I can tell you immediately based on who I see did the study, I can tell you how biased it may or may not be.
William Street has had, what, 6 cracks on William Street? Subdivisions that have gone up?
They're probably all done by the same firm. Probably to guess.
That study is no different than an architectural job that we work on all the time, where when you're testing subcompact or concrete or whatever, that person is engaged by the owner because they're looking at the best interest of that, not the contractor or developer like this situation.
That would, yeah, and I don't know what the legality of that is.
Yeah, I don't know either, but, I mean, realistically,
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you get into environmental impact statements, if it's a pos deck, there are 2 options immediately. That the lead agent write the impact statement and is reimbursed, or the applicant writes it and lead agent gets reimbursed to review it. Those are your 2
that could
legal
be,
options.
right. So there's a check.
Yeah, but that's only out of, once you pos deck and get into an EIS.
What about getting something from the DEC? That letter they wrote last year really didn't address trees, flora, fauna. It was talking about wetlands and,
Well, the wetlands were to the south of the disturbed area.
yeah. But would the DEC address any of these things we're talking about?
If we found something there, like a Hensel sparrow or something, they would get involved.
I mean, they just refer you to their mapper and say, if it's on the map, fine, if it's not, okay, you're good.
Those things are so out of date, that's what gets me.
You don't use them anymore.
What's that?
You don't use them anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah, all that stuff is so out of date. I am seeing birds, for example, that I haven't seen in years, just because of DDT and emerald ash borers. The habitat's changing.
well, I mean, if you look at the short form, which is what we're using for this, right? There's a question on fauna. Was this the long
We
one?
did the long form
Oh, we did?
on the hotel.
Oh, there's a whole section on it.
Oh, we did this, okay, long form.
And we went through it, but we're basing on what we're told by the applicant, as opposed to us being on site and or hiring a biologist and having the town be reimbursed to go through the site.
Impact on plants and animals.
Yeah. And we probably answered small.
We said small because we didn't know. We don't know it's there. We just went by the mapper on what they sent to us, which kind of just says no.
Well, we're gonna
But
try
again,
to,
you've got to keep in mind, you've got to look at the entire area, not just the site.
Right.
That's what's a little tricky. The entire area is over 100
Big,
acres, I think.
big,
Yeah.
all the way down to the creek and things.
Yeah, right, all the way to Ellicott Creek.
Yeah.
So it's a huge area. So then
Yeah.
you back up and say, okay, what is this site? How much of this site is part of that area?
Well, that's where that tiny 0.6% or
Correct,
something came
that their
from.
part that Mike was talking about.
That's why you say it's a small impact. Okay, it's a small impact.
Right, for that acreage. But for the big acreage, it's small, but for the small area acreage, it's big. And the impact is huge because we're clearing it off. So I'd like someone else to go through it. I'd like to go through it myself, see what I can see. I do have it. bachelor's in biology.
Okay.
Well, we're working on that for you, see what we can do.
I have a master's in urban planning. But it hasn't done me any good so far.
Got you on the planning board.
Pardon?
Got
They
you
got you on the planning board.
Yeah.
because that's not the only issue that's been brought up. So I mean, how are we addressing, if you're looking to address the public's concerns,
Yeah.
you know, they've got that, they've got traffic, they've got screening of the throughway, although that one I don't get, because of where all the houses
I think
are.
they're
I don't see how
thinking
this
it-
site screens anybody from
Right.
the throughway. There's no connection there in my
Yeah, to the
mind.
west.
Yeah,
I don't think that traffic's even an issue, because this town said they would close off that street, and then the people complain that they're gonna close the street off.
Right.
So you can't have both.
Yeah, Supervisor Leary suggested putting in a roundabout, or a
Dead end.
cul-de-sac, a dead end or something.
So I picked up a letter that was received from the DEC December 16th of 2024. And it was paragraph number 3 that specifically dialed in on the wetlands portion for this project. And if you like, I can hit some of the highlights there, right? So it's, pretty much the boilerplate, no current map regulated freshwater wetlands at or near the project site. Subletter A, the current New York State official freshwater wetlands map will no longer limit DEC regulatory jurisdiction to wetlands depicted on those maps. Instead, maps will become informational, and any wetlands that meet the applicable definition and criteria will be regulated by DEC and subject to permitting regardless of whether they appear on the informational maps. Letter B, January 1st, 2025, small wetlands of unusual importance will be regulated if they meet one of 11 newly established criteria in the new legislation. Now, whether or not you sat through any of those presentations, it's going to hit one of those 11 new criteria. And on January 1st of 2028, the default size threshold of regulated wetlands will decrease from 12.4 acres to 7.4 acres, if that happens in 2028. So, I think a little bit more involvement from the DEC to help this board and perhaps the residents understand what the standards are and what's regulatory and what's not regulatory.
I don't know if they submitted, well, I assume they submitted to the DEC, but I don't think they've heard back probably.
My understanding is they did.
Yeah, but I doubt they did, they haven't heard back yet.
They've not heard back. They're getting close to their 90-day.
Yeah, 90 days will be up.
Hasn't DEC come back and said, though, that they are going to be overwhelmed with this and they're going to be looking to the
They did.
municipalities?
That's why there's a 90-day sunset. of
And
the
that
request.
municipalities would know more
So
about
if they
their own
don't
sites?
respond in 90 days, then
You're good to
they're
go.
out of the picture?
It's not jurisdictional,
Yeah, they lose.
They're punting, right, so to speak?
basically. But, again, this is where the local boards have historic data of activities on this site,
Yep.
right? So we know that there was something there in the past, whether or not it was now deemed to be non-existent or still, these, what's really happened there in the last 15, 25, 30 years since the last project was, we had the ash borer come through, we've got this oak fungus passing through. Are the trees dying off? Are there new species that moved in? Have the species moved out?
The ashes moved out.
There's a lot of stuff happening.
Okay, sounds like we're a lot further along, but no further along.
I really appreciate getting permission to go.
Yeah.
And it could be like, if it could be like any day or like Saturday morning at such and such a time or something, but, it's a holiday weekend, so it shouldn't be this coming. It could be.
Regarding the police, did we get a response from Chief on this one? He's been fairly decent. Did we get a response from Chief on this one?
Yes.
We did? He's been getting better on getting responses on the projects.
We get a little bit less than this year.
Right, but the chief.
He's asking about Chief Gummo's
Yeah.
comment.
Yeah, I don't remember, but he's been better on most of the projects. He normally sends something about, okay, or, no concern.
Traffic.
A lot of times, the response is no objection.
Right, yeah. Yeah,
I don't remember offhand.
I don't remember either.
I think he gave the traditional check off, but
Right.
without really thinking what could be happening, like.
Same with fire.
Well, I don't know that we can say without really thinking. I mean, he's the person writing the letter, right? I mean,
Yeah, but I mean, we don't know what the.
we can question everything that comes in front of us.
Right.
The same would be with fire. On Bowmansville, I don't know if they, or Ron.
It's very, very rare that I see anything from
I
fire.
agree. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I brought.
Maybe a handful in the last 3 years,
I,
if that. Handful might be high.
I mean, I brought it up a couple times, especially with these developments that have single access. I scratch my head going, how in the hell is emergency services signing off on?
Which is what
50 lots with one way in and
Which is
out.
what Chief Gummo said, the last one that I remember talked about. I don't even remember what the project was, but
Genesee Street.
access.
Next to the whole
Yeah,
road.
yeah, only having one access.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else that the board would like to discuss?
I just have a question. I brought these two files with me, and you remembered the one from the corner of Stony Road and Genesee. I can toss this out. That was existing business and a house and a split, a house and a new lot. But Rupion, 647 Ransom Road was a two-lot split. And my notes are saying variances granted, and they didn't have
Ruby's
300.
done?
Yeah, they didn't have 300 feet of frontage.
Done.
You just throw it out? They're never coming back?
It was approved.
It was approved? It means I can
Bo-
throw
both-
it out either way.
Both of those were approved.
Okay. Unless I get what I call the whereas what memo from the town board, the whereases tell me whether I can get something. And we don't see that, or even a summary of it in the notes there. I didn't see it, so thank you. These are going right in the reception.
Anything else from anybody? Ed, anything from you? Anything else? Emily, anything from legal? Matt? All right, I just want to thank everyone for the dialogue here. I mean, I know it's a pretty important project. Thank you very much. Look for, or actually, I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned. Felt just like it, Tom.
Swing it like you mean it. That's
Yeah, that's more like
That's better.
Did you? Did you?
Well, actually, no, the next meeting will not be here.
Oh, okay.
I'll send it to you.
Where the streams.
Oh, wait.
Third, somewhere?
Well, I do
actually
remember
about
somebody told me.
As of now, that's
Well, you know, the thing is, somebody from the few who said Larry used to hunt.
Flip it? Yeah.
And that's why his name
Yeah.
doesn't go on.
meeting, but depending how that goes, I might be here next
Remember,
We
mine
shall
would have
see.
gone up if the stadium was built.
Well, let's get you know what
The
you're
stadium would have changed everything.
saying.
Nobody would want to live there.
Night.
Just take a look at it. I agree with